Hi guys, it's Sam from Sammy's Reviews, and in today's video I'm gonna be reviewing A Little Life. For me, this video was really hard to write and even harder to just wrap my thoughts around this book. It took a lot of emotions and effort to form this video in any way, so I hope it doesn't come out as messy as it is in my head. So A Little Life is a 2015 novel. It's written by YANIGAHARA, and it follows Jude, who is our main character, as he goes through life from his childhood to his adulthood. And that's a really long time to cover. Along the way, he meets few friends and few family members, which we also briefly follow from time to time. And that's it. And here comes my first problem with this book, is that this book is labeled as a book that follows 4 men in their adulthood, and that's not true. We're only following Jude, and the 3 other people are just his friends, and they do come out regularly, but in really small scenes, or scenes that is nothing compared to the scenes that we follow Jude in. So a little backstory. A Little Life, I bought it back in 2015 when it came out, and like a lot of novels, I didn't come around to reading it in 2015, and I thought, like a lot of novels, that its hype is gonna die away, or just people are gonna stop talking about it. But surprisingly, this book is holding up really well. Almost 5 years after its release, people are still vlogging themselves reading it, reviewing it, discussing it. Podcasts with the author are being released like every now and then. It is such a weird thing to find a book that is fairly new and its hype is still going on half a decade after its release. And this really intrigued me. I wanted to just read A Little Life and know why do people hold it in such a high regards, unlike any of the other novels that come out every single year. For example, we have The Silent Patient. This book was really beloved at the beginning of the year, but now, a few months later, I can hear almost no one talk about it, and even bookstores stopped selling it. So what is the deal with A Little Life? Why do people keep bringing up this book even after it dies away? Also, people tend to tell you this is a must read, this is the most miserable book that you're gonna ever read, this is a book that is so mature, it's a transition from reading young adults to adult. And this sounds cool, it sounds like something I would enjoy. So basically, each time I disregarded reading this book, it comes and clings back into my TBR so I can check it out. And this year I wanted to finally read A Little Life. The reason why I put it off for so long is because of its length, mainly because it's 800 plus novel. Here is it. It's a very thick book and it's really hard to read, and I felt like I don't know if it's worth the trouble of reading 800 pages, which is equivalent to 4 other books. And is it really worth investing the time and the effort of reading it? So let's start dissecting it. First off, the writing style. The writing style is well written, it's crafted, it's heavy, it's wordy, and it walks a thin line between being well written and pretentious. And this is a bit of a problem because some scenes, because of the writing style, it was too crafted, too decorated, that you couldn't feel the struggles of the character or connect with them. But I gotta say that YANIGAHARA has the incredible talent of describing graphic scenes in a way that just makes your skin crawl. She does not shy away from telling you the story as it is, from telling you the horror of physical abuse and mental abuse just as it is. The pace of the book was a little bit complicated. The first 200 pages of the book, you're just being introduced to the character. No plot line, no clear direction, just you're being introduced to the setting, and you're kind of still don't know who are we following. The next 350 pages, maybe 400 pages, which is the majority of the novel, is just the atrocious, unbearable, horrible things that happen to Jude throughout his life, from childhood to kind of before his 40s or something, and each period in his life we follow a new set of characters and a new setting, so it keeps changing. And the very last 200 pages we follow Jude as an adult man. Along the way we meet some of the side characters such as Malcolm or JB or Willem or Harold or Andy or Julia. These are all people surrounding Jude. He is the nucleus they all revolve around. So my journey with this book has been certainly really confusing and really bumpy. It has been a bumpy road. And the reason behind that, and I hope I'm gonna word it in a good way and you can be able to understand how I'm feeling towards it. I genuinely felt angry and repelled from the book. YANIGAHARA, throughout the 800 pages, manipulates the reader, and she channels and attracts away all sorts of emotions and sympathy towards the character in a way that you feel like you're being used. The scenes are just horrible and graphic for the sake of being horrible and graphic, because at a certain point, which is very early on in the novel, you kind of establish the idea that Jude feels like an unrealistic character, because no one, at least as far as I know, can go through this much horrible things in the world. And I don't want to sound insensitive, but I just feel that cramming so much horrible scenes and violence and unspeakable things in your novel to try to make this character realistic, it kind of backdrifted and you made him unrealistic, or he feels like a really fictional character, something that comes out from a Charles Dickens novel. And she could have transferred the idea of that the character has gone through a lot from the very beginning, but the more it goes on, the further away you move from the character. She wrote scenes that are so graphic, thoughts that are too disturbing, and things that I can never unsee now. All of that to arouse sympathy and understanding towards Jude, and for me it did the exact opposite. I just felt like Jude cannot exist. I cannot believe all this stuff happened to one single person, because every single person who meets Jude wants something from him. Every single place Jude has been in is associated with horrible violence. Every single person that Jude looked up to is a horrible person, and we don't live in a world that is just black. And it gets to a point where you can do one of the two options. First off, you can put the book down and try to just take a break from it because it's too gory and too graphic. You cannot take how much negative energy this book is radiating, or you can numb yourself and sort of read on autopilot. You are so disconnected from the character because his life is so over the top, and this is what happened to me. By page 300 and something, I felt like, honestly, just give me whatever you want to give me. I don't feel anything. I just feel like you've manipulated me the first 350 pages, and now I feel like I have no more sympathy to give. Horrible things, from physical to sexual to psychological abuse to self-hatred, and let's just stop with self-hatred. This is the most annoying thing for me about the book. Jude's self-hatred is unjustifiable. He constantly, with no stops, with no breaks, self-hates, from thoughts to actually physically hurting yourself and cutting himself, and he keeps eating himself up, and it only grows when people do act of kindness towards him, like when someone shows sympathy or love or understanding towards Jude's. The way he takes it up is that he cuts himself or hates himself or just shuts himself down, and it just gets to a point that I cannot take all these negative thoughts. Why are you doing this to yourself? And it makes me wonder that the characters around Jude, are they realistic at all? What sort of a person would like someone like Jude, who is so self-hating and such a burden, and keep them in their life? Why would you write such a bleak character? It's unrealistic. Which brings me to my last point, the length. I believe the length of this novel is unjustifiable. Honestly, I could have read this novel for only 400 pages and the author could have given me the same kind of vibes, but just giving me a whole entirety of 600 pages in the middle of the book full of all sorts of trigger warnings that I could give away, I just felt like I don't recommend this book. If you're like me and you got intrigued from the idea that why is this book still floating around, why is this book the most miserable thing you can ever read, why this book is still talked about, honestly, it's talked about because it's the most miserable book that you're gonna ever read, and this should not intrigue you. This book is really, really, really heavy. It gets under your skin, and no matter where you are in your life, you're gonna still get worn out by this book. So do not check it out if this is your sole reason. I believe this book is actually well written, but it's not enough reason to recommend this book. By recommending this book, I'm only sharing the amount of abuse that this book causes. And I hope my video is not offensive in any way, shape, or form. I do understand all the themes that is being processed in the book. I just feel like I do not want to share such a heavy book. That's it for me. Have you read A Little Life? Were you planning on reading it? Please share your opinion down below. Thank you so much for watching, and see you. Bye.